we're carrying on with The Wizards of Once by Cressida Cowell. And last night, Wish had magically been put back together again. And we find out that she's alive. Chapter 23. When the adventure is over, the problems begin. She's alive, she's alive, she's alive. Around the room they dance now, with even greater jubilation than before. The enchanted spoon doing mad pirouetting circles. Oh, my feathers and beak and tail, breathed Caliburn. Thank goodness for that. For one horrible moment, I thought it was all going to go dreadfully wrong, and fate and the universe had given us the worst bad hair day of all. But she's alive. Wish staggered to her feet in the clouds of dust. I'm fine, said Wish shakily. I'm fine. With her hair up in all directions, in an enormous electric ruff, she looked like a piratical sea urchin. Quick, put your eye patch back on, said Bodkin, bending down, picking up the eye patch from the dusty floor, and hurriedly handing it to her, for the uncovered magic eye was making the walls shake again. As soon as Wish put the eye patch back on, the floor stopped heaving, the walls straightened. What happened there? Asked Wish, finding it difficult to keep her balance. It was incredible, shouted Tsar. Unbelievable. Impossible. Inconceivable. What we have just witnessed, said Caliburn in impressive tones, is one of the most extraordinary sights in the entire universe. That of a great enchanter regenerating themselves. What on earth are you talking about? Blinked Wish. You're alive, shouted Bodkin. You died, but you're a great enchanter, so you have more than one life. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, said Wish. I wasn't dead. I just fell over for a second there. You were in pieces, said Tsar joyfully. Tiny little pieces all over the room, and then you came back together again. It was the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Nonsense, said Wish, a little more uncertainly. For what with one thing and another, she was feeling a little untogether, as you would be if you had just been taken apart and put back together again rather rapidly. That's impossible. What are you saying? You're saying that I can die and come back to life, said Wish. Yes, but there's a catch, said Caliburn. Even great enchanters are made of flesh and blood, and that wears out after a while. So you have to be careful of your lives, Wish, for you do not know how many you will have. Okay, said Wish, finding all this a little difficult to take in. What about my eye? It must be a magic eye, said Caliburn. Extremely rare, very powerful. I've only ever seen that twice before in all my lifetimes, and never that colour. That must be the colour of magic that works on iron. Hang on a second, said Tsar crossly. The person who has magic that works on iron is the Boy of Destiny. Wish can't be the Boy of Destiny. She's a girl, for starters. Nobody said the person of destiny had to be a boy, Tsar, said Caliburn. This isn't the Dark Ages, you know. Well, it was, actually, but nobody ever thinks they are living in the Dark Ages. But I don't understand, said Wish. I've taken my eye patch off loads of times, and trust me, nothing like that has ever happened before. Well, you've only just turned 13, so the magic will only have just come in, won't it? Said Caliburn. So not only am I magic, said Wish, very upset, but it's a really weird kind of magic, and it's all my fault that these witches are waking. Well, not your fault exactly, said Caliburn. However, if the witches could get hold of the magic that works on iron, then they might have a hope of rising once again. They know from centuries of bloody wars that without that power they cannot defeat the warriors. That is what they have been waiting for all these years. Shoot! This was really bad, really bad. It's not a pleasant thought to think that the most terrifying creatures on earth want to target you in particular. Wish was feeling very conflicted about all this. On the one hand, it was of course a disaster for a warrior to suddenly discover she was magic. But on the other, in the past she had always been Wish, a word which, when spoken, was accompanied by a sigh of disappointment. Sycorax's very ordinary 7th daughter, a little bit clumsy and a little bit blind, who was trying and failing to be a warrior like her sisters. But now she had discovered she was Wish, quite a different sort of word, a word that was another name for magic itself, and this new Wish was an individual of some considerable specialness, who might look ordinary on the outside, but on the inside had a glorious, if rather dangerous, secret. "We can think about all this stuff later. In the meantime, it's all worked out," said Zar joyously. "We saved Squeezes, Wish is alive, we killed the King Witch. I've broken that horrible stone and made amends. Everything ends happily. I knew it would turn out right in the end." He turned triumphantly to Caliban. "You see, that wasn't so hard, was it?" "Oh, Zar," said Caliban, shaking his head, "you're going to be the death of me. These adventures of yours are very, very bad for my heart." Bodkin stared at them all in awe. In the last 5 minutes he had rocketed so violently from terror to despair to rapturous joy that he felt as if a great grey ogre had been rattling him in a bucket. "You mean," he whispered in awe, "you have experiences like this on a regular basis?" "All the time," sighed Caliban. "This was a particularly bad one, admittedly." Bodkin looked round the devastated room. Sycorax's precious chamber of magic removal ruined, the floor a mess of rubble, the stone exploded, the door blown off its hinges, the scrape of witches' talons on the door frame. An ancient peril, the witches, dead for hundreds of years, woken up and come into the world once more. "What do you mean, worked out?" said Bodkin. "I don't call this worked out. It's a mess, a total mess. The witches are out there," said Bodkin, "and it's all our fault. I should never have let the princess out of the fort. I should have told the grown-ups." Wish gently patted him on the shoulder. Now, Bodkin, you're being too hard on yourself. It's not all our fault. The witches were out there anyway. They were always there. We just couldn't see them. We have to look on the hopeful side, and look how much we've learned from this adventure." Wish continued. "Warriors and wizard fought at King Witch side by side, and defeated it. That has to be a good sign for the future. They left the sword in the stone, for it would not budge, even when Wish pulled it. Fate didn't seem to think that either of them was ready to wield that sword." "Don't understand," said Zar, bewildered. "We need that sword more than ever, now that witches have returned to the forest." "But the sword is a bit wayward, isn't it?" said Caliban. "We don't really understand its secrets yet, so maybe this is the right place for it, at the moment." Caliban might be right, for goodness knows where you could safely conceal and imprison an enchanted sword that seemed to have a mind of its own, and wanted to kill witches, and slice through floors and ceilings, and if even Queen Sycorax, who was a prison expert, couldn't work out a solution of how to contain it, well, the stone was probably a safer place for it as any, for the moment. They left a note for Sycorax, by the sword in the stone. Wish wrote it, so the spelling was a little erratic. "Dear Queen Sycorax, I have returned your sword. Do not touch the blade. If you are ever able to take it out, it may be stained with Blood Witch. Sorry. Best wishes, Zar, son of Encanzo, great wizard of forever." It wasn't hard to find the once magic people that Sycorax had imprisoned. You just had to follow the noise, and as soon as they entered their dungeon, the singing ceased, and the once magics stared at them, unable to believe they were there. The giant crusher raised his shaggy head. "Zar," he roared, "you've come to save me. I knew you would." "Of course I have," said Zar, conveniently forgetting that if Wish hadn't pointed it out, he wouldn't even have noticed Crusher was missing. "Because I'm a leader, and that is what a leader does." One look at that giant's kindly, innocent face, crinkling up in delight as Zar hugged his ankle, made everything worthwhile for Wish. This imprisonment of the once magic people was wrong. She could tell it was wrong. Her mother was mistaken. Not wicked like Zar said she was, of course not, but mistaken nonetheless. "Let's get out of here," roared Zar, punching the air. But to Tsar's surprise, the once magic people were not so keen to escape as he expected. They stood there, even the loudest of the hobs rather silent and depressed, as if the air had leaked from a balloon, and the poor sprites who had lost their ability to fly were so mortified they ran away, scuttling like mice across the prison floor. "They're ashamed, Tsar," explained Caliburn, "for what is a giant without its size? What is a sprite without her wings?" They were like warriors returning from battle, terribly wounded, these poor people, and they no longer knew how they would fit into the world of magic. But Tsar coaxed them out. He jumped upon a rock in the centre of the dungeon. "Don't be embarrassed, everybody," cried Tsar. "I am Tsar, boy of destiny, and at present, it seems, due to some weird divine oversight that I don't understand, even I have no magic yet. I have come to rescue you, and I will take you back to my father Encanzo, the greatest enchanter who has ever lived. And I am sure he will be able to restore your magic." "I don't think you should be promising them that, Tsar," said Caliburn. "I'm not sure that's possible." But the promise offered hope to these people. The thought of magic being returned to them brought a shine even to the dullest and most crestfallen boggart or will-o'-the-wisp's eye. Crusher the giant scooped up the little sprite who could no longer fly and kindly offered them a lift in his pockets, while they perched like little nits in his hair, and the gradually growing larger party galloped and sprang and ran through the corridors back to the chamber of magic removal, because that was where they could pick up the path to the secret exit. At the chamber of magic removal, the little party stopped. "This is where we part," said Bodkin. "Come with us, Wish," said Tsar. "Come back to our camp. You can be magic there." Tsar and Wish had met in a crossing of paths and stars in the forest only 24 hours earlier. Here, deep in the underground prison, was another crossing of the ways, and Wish had to decide which way to go. One way, the sprite dust trail of light led back through the dungeon maze and up to Sycorax's hill fort. The other way, a tall, dark corridor led towards the secret exit and out into the forest, and that was where Tsar and the magic creatures were going. It was extremely tempting to take that path, for it seemed like the path of excitement and wildness and magic and snow cats. But "I can't leave home," said Wish. "I'm only 13. This is my home, and my mother isn't as bad as you think she is." "Your mother is a very dangerous person," said Tsar. Even though Bodkin wanted Wish to come back up to the fort with him, in all honesty, he had to agree with Tsar. "Remember those heads in that chamber? Those spelling books piled high in the cells? Sycorax is trying to be a sorceress, Wish." "Murmuring mistletoe, do you think that's true?" gasped Wish. "But how can she, when she's the one who always goes on about how bad magic is, and how we should fight against it?" Yes, Sycorax had plenty of secrets, and Wish had learned rather more about her mother than she wanted to know. "But she's trying to do the right thing. I know she is, and my mother deserves a second chance," said Wish stubbornly. "We all deserve a second chance, don't we?" "Wish is right. She should stay here," said Caliburn, thinking not so much of giving Sycorax a second chance, but of the many evil people, wizards and worse, who might like to get their hands on magic that works on iron. Wish's magic is so powerful it will be better off for the moment in the protection of Warrior Fort. In fact, now I come to think of it, the warriors have to keep Tsar's spelling book just in case. "Oh, that's so kind of you, Caliburn," said Wish, "but I won't be needing it." She gave a little shiver. "I'm not going to be doing any more magic for the moment. Not till I can persuade everyone in the warrior tribe that magic isn't as bad as they think it is." "No," whispered Bodkin urgently, even though he was absolutely longing to look again at the pictures, at the stories, the recipes, the spells, the whole wonderful world of magic in that book, which Caliburn had now taken from Tsar's pocket. "No, we shouldn't have magic things any more. Look at all the trouble that beastly spoon and the enchanted sword has got us into. Wish is a warrior princess, and she needs to give up this magic stuff." Caliburn gave him an affectionate look. "Ah, Magic can be concealed, magic can be hidden, but giving up magic? That is very hard indeed. Look what just happened here in this fort. However, the kind of magic Wish has, admitted Caliburn, is so dangerous and so special that it is probably better for you to conceal it. Nobody must ever find out, or Wish will be in terrible danger. There is a lot to be said for the nice, quiet, ordinary life of a warrior princess. She's very lucky to have you, Bodkin, as her guardian angel. Bodkin blushed. I don't know what you're talking about. What is an angel? Is it something like a sprite? A little, said Caliburn. Remember, I cannot stress this more strongly. No one must ever find out about this. That's why you need this book. There are many, many useful chapters in there about concealing and hiding your magic from others. And if, by some unlucky chance, dangerous people start going after you, people with wicked hearts and deep spells and strong magic of their own, why then this book may save your life. Wish took the book from the bird. It was in a terrible state, burned and stained, with pages dropping out like confetti. You can write in it too, said Caliburn. Write your own story, and that always helps if you're trying to keep a secret. Take a feather from my back. There's one there about to fall out, and keep it with you all the time. Wish drew the falling out feather from Caliburn's back and placed it carefully inside the spelling book and put the book in a pocket in her cloak. Goodbye, Squeeze-You, said Wish, as the sprite hovered crossly in front of her. I hope you get well soon, and you fly just as well as you ever did. I don't know why you don't want to come back to Wizard Camp with us. But I don't care, grumped Squeeze-You, crossly tweaking her hair and pinching her nose and giving her little bites like stinging nettles. You have a face like a warthog, and you are stinkier than a cowpat. Oh, you're cursing me. That's wonderful, Squeeze-You. You must be feeling better, said Wish delightedly. Squeeze-You looked dolefully into her eyes. But what are you saying? Come with us. Don't make me sad. I'm so sorry, Squeeze-You. Never mind, hissed Ariel, his eyes spitting with malice. We'll miss you, but we'll get over it, won't we? Mustard thought. They can stay here in their lumping great fort of dullness forever. Ariel waved his thorny arms and spat out a few words that sounded like XPTELRBURTIBUT and CCRRMBLCXTT. They did not sound friendly. Goodbye, Tsar, said Wish. Goodbye, said Tsar, whistling carelessly, hands in his pockets, for he did not want anyone to think he was upset. And then they parted ways. Tsar and his magic creatures ran and flew down the corridor, the sprites trailing beautiful little snakes of light that spelled words like goodbye and don't come back and beware and good riddance. Wish and Bodkin watched them until they vanished into the darkness, singing songs that were eventually too far away to hear. And then sadly, Wish and Bodkin went in the other direction, up to where the guards were still sleeping at the dungeon entrance, and then back through the fort they tiptoed, carefully avoiding the night watchmen. Meanwhile, Tsar and his once magic people took every second left-hand turning till they got to Queen Zikarax's secret exit, an enormous door which must have been constructed by the clever hands of hob-elves, for it was not only huge but slanting inwards from the slope of the hillside outside. It was a wonder, really, that it could be a secret, for the door was large enough for a giant to get in and out, if they merely bent their head a little. Once they got there, it was far easier to break out of the fort than it had to been to break in. Tsar did an impression of Queen Zikarax, shouting, "Open up and be quick about it. The password is control." And creak, a guard standing on the other side opened the door, which was wood on one side and turfed like grass on the other, and they all trooped out. Tsar was wearing that very distinctive red royal cloak, so the guard assumed that what looked like Queen Zikarax on the outside was Queen Zikarax on the inside as well. The guard did not seem surprised to see his queen going out of the fort in the company of a giant and a whole load of once magic people. He merely sent a hand signal up to the sentries at the battlements to let them know not to shoot. "Nobody run," whispered Tsar, for he could feel the snowcats quivering by his side. "We mustn't look frightened. If we look scared and start running away, then they'll suspect something is wrong." All the sentries saw was someone wearing Zikarax's red cloak in the middle of the party, as the soft tread of the snowcats made paw prints in the snow, and Tsar and his magic creatures strolled quietly away from the fort and into the forest, the sprites blinking out like snuffed candles as soon as they hit the sky. Tsar only relaxed once he and the snowcats had reached the safety of the cover of the trees. He looked back at the fort. The door had been shut, and no one would guess there was a door there unless they knew it already. And little ant-like figures of the sentries on the battlements did not look even more remotely alarmed or agitated. It was almost as if Queen Zikarax made a habit of surreptitiously coming in and out of that secret entrance, with all sorts of strange magic people and things, without the citizens of the fort knowing anything about it. Despite the fact that magic was very strictly banned by order of herself. She was an interesting woman, that Queen Zikarax, but tricky, very tricky. Ooh, so I wonder what's going to happen now that Tsar's gone back into the wild woods and Wish and Bodkin have gone back up into the fort. Join me tomorrow. Bye.